Okay, we're live. We'll give it a second here. Hopefully people are going to start joining. Did you just join?
No.
You don't seem live?
Sorry.
Gotta look at my screen here. We'll give it, oh, now I got 5 people. Looks like, I see a little icon. I've never done this. Hi, Judy. Good morning or good afternoon. I don't know who you are. But I'm staring at my computer, which is right here. And I'm watching some people join. It looks like 12 people are on, although I've never done a live video, so I don't know.
I see you, honey.
Yeah, you see me?
I see you right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Lily from Canada. Awesome. So I see we got about 15 people. Good morning. Judy's Eastern time. So hi guys, this is my first ever Facebook Live workshop, and I'm gonna give people a couple minutes to join, and then we'll get to work. So while we're doing that, if it's morning for you, I hope you're having some coffee. If you're in Europe, it could be very late in the afternoon. Maybe you're having a glass of wine or a beer. You know, whatever. It is Saturday. Anyway, I hope everyone's well. These are trying times. I'm not really going to talk about that. I'm sure we've heard. I don't know about you. I've heard all I really want to hear about it. Just want to get better. Bless you. As my wife is over here sneezing. She's my helper today.
Hi, everyone.
There's about 17 people, 18, 20. So I'm going to give it another minute because we had, I think 80 people signed up. So I'm going to give it maybe 2 more minutes. Then we'll get started. All right. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Joe. I really wanted to do a Zoom meeting, and I gave a call and talked to Joanne Thomas, who is our admin for the group, and she suggested Facebook Live. And I said, you know what? I use GoToMeeting and Zoom and Skype and Teams all the time at work. When we do conference calls, I work with people all over the world. And I'm kind of used to that and that interaction. But there's some downsides to it too, like people leaving their microphones open and not muting, and a number of things could go wrong. So at the end of the day, this isn't as interactive, but it'll get the job done. Okay. Hi, Diane. So it's about 3 minutes after. It's 20 people out there. I think we're going to get started. So I'm going to start by introducing my wonderful wife. This is Risa.
Hi, everyone.
So, and I'll give you just a quick tour of my studio. See my kilns over here. It's got, yes, that is a wastebasket under my sink, because I made my own sink trap, of course, because I'm a potter. You guys get it. Over here, got displays. Then down below, I've got some of my glazes in 2-gallon buckets. And of course, I've got some baskets there that pull out. And as you guys know, they're full of everything under the sun. Because I find stuff, I go, oh, that's going to be awesome. My wife says, Risa says, what are you going to do with that, Jeff? And I say, pottery, because it's good for texture. So you guys get that as well. Okay, other side. So there's my wheel. It's on legs. Saves my back. Over the corner, I have a slab roller. Over here, my pug mill. Back behind there, I have some glazes. Some more glazes in smaller batches. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so why don't we get started and do some work. All right, so you guys let me know if you can see this. Come down to the work surface. Well, listen, what I was thinking, and then talking with Joe, she thought it was a good idea. And I'm gonna take you guys beginning to end through my process of creating this floating blue glaze, which, by the way,
It's my favorite.
it's my wife's favorite. A lot of people really like it. This is it on the bottom. And you guys have seen it. So, or else you wouldn't be here. So let me go ahead and get started. And I'm just gonna move this mouse, get this stuff out of the way, get going. Here. And off. Excuse me. Okay, here we go. So what I didn't show you is right over here, or is my glaze kitchen, and I'm in the glaze kitchen. There's some cabinets there, and of course I've got ingredients in containers that we're going to be working with. Okay, so what do I have in here? Well, I went yesterday and collected everything that we're going to use to work with today that I would typically use. So, need a scale. So I have a digital scale. Let me just move this stuff. Kind of in the order of use. So a couple plastic containers to sit on the scale to mix stuff in. Actually some mixing containers. So I'm going to have something in here to mix it up with. What am I going to mix it with? Well, like you guys, for smaller batches. Got my handy dandy mixer, inversion mixer. Okay, so let me get this stuff out of the way until I need it. Of course, something hit the floor. Okay, and I'm going to tell you guys right now a little bit of disclaimer as well. See, we've got 35 people on. And you know what? I realized I didn't qualify anyway. If I knock something over, chances are I'm going to cuss a little bit. so just bear with me, and please don't be offended. I hope I don't offend you. That's not it. But I'm just being myself here. So I think that's the best way to be when you're presenting. I want to take a second to qualify a little bit. So when anyone does a demonstration, people want to know, well, what are they all about? Where they come from? How long they've been doing this stuff. I started doing pottery back in 1999. So that's a little while ago. About 7 years ago, I was able to start working in a garage studio. I'm just going to hit the highlights for you guys. And that has evolved to what you guys saw today, which is a freestanding building, 16 by 20, which is to the side of my home. What else do I want to tell you? I'm a hobby potter right now. I have a full-time job, and I hope to retire in about maybe 6-7 years, and then do this as a full-time thing in my retirement. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. You guys met my wife. Let's go back to work. And she chuckles at me. Well, the dog, Max, maybe at the end. Okay, what else do we need? I'm going to be using the syringe. Maybe you have guessed it. We're going to measure specific gravity. Talk about that. I'm going to use this as well, which is a beaker, 100 milligrams. We're going to use that as well for specific gravity. We're not going to use this today, but you need this to get the red iron oxide out of this. So a bottle brush. What else? Probably won't use this today, but this is a 100-gram weight, and it's used to calibrate the scale. So every once in a while, these things get a little off maybe. And this scale, it's not expensive. It's a $15 scale. Got it off Amazon like everything else. But you can calibrate it. What else? So for glaze making, one last thing here. which is the all-important Ford cup, which I'm not going to talk about now, but this is how we're going to set the viscosity in the glaze a little bit later on. Okay, and Risa, if you don't mind, give me time marks at like every 15 minutes,
Okay.
so I can keep it moving.
Okay.
Thank you. A couple other things, of course, glaze tongs. This is a device that I used. It measures thickness. And when I was working on this glaze, this came in handy because people say, well, it's about the thickness of a dime. Well, what is the thickness of a dime? Or the consistency is like milk. Was it whole milk or is it cream? As Steve Locks puts it, in one of his videos, you know, thick to you is different than thick to me. So what is it? So this device helped. I don't use it now, but it helped in the beginning. Spatula. We might actually use this bucket. And to the side, I have some buckets with water. All right. And as we get into the glaze application, before we do that, I am going to strain the glaze. So there's a 100 micron or 100 mesh strainer. And my $1 bucket, green bucket from, of course, Dollar Store. Okay, if you guys have questions along the way, feel free to ask. And Risa's going to help me, and she'll, as I work, she's going to go ahead and call out the questions. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So this will probably be a little bit boring for many of you that have mixed glazes for a long time, but I'm going to do it anyway for folks that are just getting started. I have my recipe here, floating blue 2, and I'm just going to start going through it. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to get my Sharpie, and as I get going, I'm going to mark it off because you know what? I'll lose my place. I'll make a mistake. This is something I picked up from other potters. You know, there's no course in any studio that I've seen that says, hey, come on in here. We're going to teach you how to mix a glaze. So really learned how to do this from videos, this group, and John Britt's workshop and books. So, all right, here we go. First up, let me get my glasses, because I'll definitely make a mistake if I don't have those. And here we go. All right, first on the list. First thing I want to do is some Nepsi. And I need 106 grams, 106.5. All right. I don't know if you guys can see this. A little closer. Probably not going to be able to see the numbers on it. All right. Get this out of the way. Keep going here. All right. Now I'm going to tare this, which means I'm just going to zero it out. And I need, hold on one second, I'll wipe this out. Okay, a couple things. I use this all the time, and I go from bucket to bucket to bucket. And no, I don't have any problems with cross-contamination. So there it is. It's just my way of doing it, doesn't mean it's right. Okay. So putting this in. And you see I tap along, I just do that. It's just the way I do it. 106, look at that. 106.5. I couldn't do that again if I tried. Okay, now I need to bring this to 180 with some 3134. I'm going to mark this off. Put this aside. All right. And here we go with some 3134. And I know this is boring, guys, so just bear with me. I wanted to show you guys. I was talking to Joe, and we both decided going end to end with this thing is probably the best thing to do. So I'm just coming right up to 180. There we go. And it's not, I don't go exact. If I'm a couple tenths one way or another, who cares? It's not going to make a difference. But if you want to do it exact, it's up to you. Okay, so that's done. Okay, silica. Need to bring this up now to 228. I need about 48 grams. 28, yeah. Silica's heavy, doesn't take much. Okay, and there we are. Any questions, Risa? You guys have any questions? Still with me? Yeah, I've got 44 people. Good. Hang in there, guys. We'll get to the good stuff here in a minute. All right, Gersley, next on the list. Gersley is 31, 34 and Gersley are the two items that, along with lithium, a lot of people have used over time to increase the flux and bring a cone 10 glaze down to a cone 6 glaze. And, oh, I'm sorry, I need EPK. Wait a minute. I need EPK. Yep, hold on. I'm going to my kitchen. Almost got ahead of myself. See? That's why it counts to write it down and cross it off. So EPK, I need 46. We made 274. EPK is light. It's kaolin. It's a clay, as you guys know. It's very light. And by the way, it actually fires pretty white. It's almost as white as garlic, kaolin, in my experience. Okay, 274. Let me focus here. Okay, there we go. There's EPK. Now the Gersley. Gersley is also the material I love to hate. Why? Because it gels up and goos up your glaze. That's why. And you have to deflocculate it, which we're going to talk about a lot for some. Okay, I need 25 of this. Let's bring me to 300. So I'm making a 300 gram batch.
I see there's 18 comments, but I don't see comments.
Comments. See Diane. Oh,
Hello and stuff.
I don't know. The comments are maybe questions.
Okay.
They are questions, some of them.
I can't see them on there.
EPK.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you got to scroll down.
Okay, so what size batch are you making?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so hello. All right.
I knew there was a few questions. Okay, we're catching up here, guys. It's the first time. All right, wait. Go ahead. Hit me with the questions.
All right, is this the recipe straight from the book, or did you make any changes to it?
It is straight from the book. On page 119, it's called Floating Blue Tube.
Okay.
It is also on Glaze. I published it.
Okay. What size batch are you making?
I'm making a 300 gram batch.
And how did you convert John's percentages to your grams?
I have it. I really didn't. I used glazing. So if you use glazing, you just put in your batch size down here and print it. So it's telling me how much of everything I need. Hope that makes sense. Okay.
Don't see EPK, don't see the recipe.
It says kaolin, I think, in the book. So EPK, Edgar Plastic Kaolin, is just a type of clay. There's also garlic, OM4, tile 6, But I generally use, and a lot of potters use EPK. It's consistent, it works well. Whenever it's not called out, it just says kaolin. That's what I use. Okay.
Missed the silica amount.
Silica. Okay, so the amounts. Guys, go to, you'll want to go to Glaze and do this on your own. The conversions are done for you. I can't tell by looking at it exactly what it was for a 300 gram batch. But maybe we'll come out, send me a note afterwards if you want some help with that.
And then there's one other, what did you say about brining a glaze from cone 10 to 6?
Oh, bringing it, so there's a lot of, people always have questions around how do you take a cone 10 glaze and make it melt at cone 6. And Tony Hansen on Digital Fire has just a wealth of information about this. And you can be very technical with it if you want, and take it into Insight Live and really go mole for mole or ingredient by ingredient and go from cone 10 to cone 6 and keep your unity molecular formula or UMF the same throughout. You can also use glazing in the stall chart, but in general, you're just adding fluxes to that cone 10 glaze to get it to melt at cone 6 and vitrify. So it's generally Gersley borate, which I have here, Gersley, right? 3134. And why 3134, not 3124? Not to go too far into this, but if I get lost, you guys bring me back, please. But 3134 really is the makeup of it, without going into the detail, really won't change your color response too much, won't change the glaze too much, and has a lot of flux in it. So it's high in boron, and that's what we're looking for, is things that are high in boron to make that cone 10 glaze actually melt. Okay, so Gersley is also a source of boron, and that's why we have it in there. It also gels up your glaze a lot, which is why we have to deflocculate if we have a lot of Gersley. As opposed to highly fritted glazes, like simply Satin 4 from Matt Little. It's got a lot of frit in it. That we actually have to flocculate or add some Epsom salt to. Okay. Long-winded answer, I'm so sorry.
And Betsy says, I've never measured into one bucket like this.
Yeah, so you absolutely can. And you just do batch. So you just, right here, it says batch, batch, batch. So the way you do that, there's the other way to do it, Betsy, is probably how you do it, which is to tare. So if I hit T right now, this is going to go to 0. I guess that's what you're talking about. Couple different ways to do it. Okay, let me keep moving.
I
need
22 minutes in.
Okay, thanks. I need some root teal, 12 grams. So let me get that. So this is light root teal, and you notice it says Axner. And here's why, because root teal from different suppliers will perform differently in your glaze. Just the way it is. So do some testing from different sources if you don't like what your root teal is doing. And I'll show you a quick example. I can find one. No, I don't have one right now. I'm looking over on my glaze shelf. So let me just show you this. Can you guys, I'm assuming you can all see this. I had a batch of root teal that I got from a supplier that was really muddy and brown. In fact, I posted about it. I'm like, anyone see this? And what was happening is in the bottom of a bowl, I would get brown kind of like a brown gray scum, and it was awful, and I hated it. And I did some searching around, and Walter or John or someone said, you know, Jeff, I think it's the root heel. Did you know? And then I got an education on root heel because I didn't know that it was, I knew it had impurities, but I didn't know it was so much different from source to source. So,
Glazy.org.
Glazy.org. Yep, that's it. So, that's why I marked this Actioner root heel. And because I bought a pound of it to start with, I tested it. I'm like, this is good. I like it. Then I bought 10 pounds of it. And I put a pound of it in this bucket here. And I'll know that I got it from Actioner. Okay, enough said about that. Now, so light root heel. And this is where your titanium comes from, by the way, which is what makes this glaze special. This is the ingredient that makes this glaze pop, float, and do all the cool things that it does, all by itself without doing any layering. This is it. Okay, so let me just. Root heel is heavy, where Gersley is not, and other ingredients are not. Talc is not. Okay, so what do I need? Let me go back. Root heel, I need 12. So I had to tear this out. It now says, start it back up because I was talking too much. Right. I know I do that sometimes. Bear with me. Okay, so 9, 10. Okay, 12.2, whatever. It's good enough. Okay. That's root heel. Calls 4%. What else do I need? Cobalt. Okay, so I keep my cobalt in this little container. It's very expensive. I'm actually going to tear this now as I do the oxides. I do that a lot. And very strong. So this calls for 4.5. Actually, I believe it's 1.5. Yeah, 4.5. And in a small batch, you add an extra gram of this or 2 grams. You're going to go black. The glaze is probably going to go black, especially this glaze. So be careful with the cobalt. Okay, there it is, 4.5. Top on. How much is that? It's just not much. It's just a little bit. The root heel's under it. Yeah. Okay. Bentonite. So, why bentonite? Bentonite's a clay. Why do people do it? And why did John put it on almost every recipe? Because it helps suspend everything. Does this glaze need it? Because it's got a lot of Gersley. It does have a fair amount of clay in it already. I'm thinking not. In fact, on the online recipe, I put 1 gram of bentonite that I put on Glazy. It is different than the book. The book calls for 2 grams of bentonite per 100 for everything. For highly printed glazes, chunk it in there. For glazes like this, maybe not so much. But I went ahead and put a gram in anyway, because I haven't tested without. But it probably doesn't need it. So how much do I need? I need just 3 grams here. 1 second. 2. And a little bit goes a long way. If you read up on bentonite, and I did, just because, a little factoid, they put this stuff in milkshakes and ice cream. And then it holds an insane amount of water. I want to say like 10 times its weight in water or something that can absorb. Anyway, it's a great suspender. And it'll also, along with Gersley, gel up your glaze. right? And so you have to deflock it. All right, here we go. What's left? One more ingredient. And I've saved this one for last. Red iron oxide, Rio, as we call it, because it's messy as all get out. So I need 6 grams. And here we go. And it is iron, so it's very heavy. Little goes a long way. Okay, that's it. Now we have our glaze, guys. All right, give me a second. I'm going to get everything out of the way, and we'll start mixing. Any questions, Brisa?
Nope.
No questions?
Nope. Nothing new.
Okay. Yes, there's a question.
No.
Yeah, what temp did you fire at?
Oh, I don't see that one.
Scroll down. You got to keep scrolling down.
I did.
No.
No.
See it?
Oh,
So Deborah, I think, has a question. So I'm looking at some questions.
I don't have any.
Hold on.
See?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Mhm.
Interesting.
All right.
Okay. All right, guys, 1 second. Grabbing some water. Let me put all my stuff away. Make a little room before I make a mess, if you know what I mean. Because I guarantee if I knock something over, I'm probably going to start cussing. Just saying now. All right. Sponge water. All right, just a quick cleanup here. I'm going to need the scale again, so I'm not going to put it up. I need it pretty soon, too. Because we're going to do specific gravity. Okay. Sharpie up. I fire at, there's a question from Deborah of what temp. I fire at between cone 5 and a half, cone 5 to cone 5 and a half, sometimes a little more. But really, I want to keep it 5.5 or below, because the hotter you fire this glaze, your results are going to start to get worse. When what's going to happen, it's going to go from this nice blue, right, to black or dark. Here, let's see if I have an example. I did. So this one was right on the edge. I put some stuff in here. Let's see that. There we go. It's very dark right through here. This went to cone 6. And on the back, not so nice. You guys see this? Not so nice. Went to cone 6, maybe a little more. As opposed to this, which it's still got it's floating. The blue and the brown's floating underneath. Well, the blue's on top, but there's darker colors underneath. Okay. Any other questions? All right, here we go. I'm going to keep her going here. Sorry. All right, let's mix this glaze quickly. All right, how much water? 300 grams. Can anyone tell me about how much water I need? It's a test. No, just kidding. Trying to keep you guys engaged. How much water do we need? Anyone know? 300 grams.
What's the name of this glaze?
This glaze is floating blue. What, you saw that before I did? Wow.
Deborah popped up.
Oh, she did finally?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my screen. Okay. Anybody want to guess how much water? I'll give you a hint. It's out on Glazy.
This is from Sarah.
Yeah.
How does the thickness of the glaze change how the glaze comes out?
Yeah, it's huge. That is huge. We're going to get to that. If it goes on thin, it will be green. or brown. It'll be pond scum green. I don't care if you fire it at cone 5 or not. It's going to be awful. You know, I really wanted to.
Lily's does 240 grams of water?
Let's see. Where's my phone? It's by percentage. It's how I do it. Most glazes, I start out with 75%, and that typically gets me to a specific gravity around 150 on most glazes. If it's a clear glaze, more water, but most glazes.
300 grams.
So yeah, you could do 1 for 1. That's gonna give you a specific gravity that's probably 135, which is too low for this glaze. This glaze likes to be 148 to 150.
200 milliliters.
Let's see. I'll show you how I do it. So you guys can see my phone here. I'm going to say 300 times 0.78 is the magic number. 234 milliliters of water or grams. They're the same. It's a metric system. So 234 grams or milliliters of water. I can go measure that right here. If I do that, and I'm telling you based on my experience, for me, it's probably going to come out to 148.568, something like that.
Joe says 75% of the weight.
75% of the weight is a great starting point. If I did 75% of the weight here, a straight 75, so when we do that, 300 times 0.75, it's 225. It's going to probably bring me to 152, which is, then I'm going to have to add water. But here, what I want to do today is, so I need 234 total, but I want to show you guys how this glaze thickens up and thins up, and how to flocculate it, deflocculate glazes. We'll talk about that for a minute. So let me get some water. There's 100. I said what? I need 234 for 78%. So I'm going to go. Okay. 200. Get a little bit more. Get over 40.
So it's almost 20 minutes to 12.
Okay. All right. I'm going to roll through this, guys. Sorry it's taking so long. Okay. So I'm going to mix this up. Just going to give it a stir. I'm going to use the version mixer. Put my hand on it and putting it over, because as you guys know, it'll go everywhere. Maybe. It's got red iron oxide in it. So because it's got Rio in it, I don't want this stuff all over my wall. Or me. Can you see this? Let me come over here. Okay. So now I'm going to shift gears. I'll take this off. Put this on. And really spin it up. Yes. Okay, starting to look pretty good. I should have got my buckets of water out here. Bring that up here. Move this, move this. Too much stuff. Okay. Here's my other bucket. that in there, this in here. I try to keep a bucket of water or right by me when I'm doing this, and also keep one of these full so I can go back and forth, not make a big mess. Okay, now next item on the docket here is to check the specific gravity. I might need that water there. Okay, you guys see this? Now I want to check the specific gravity on this. I'm betting it's going to be a little high. So how do I do that? Look, you could use one of these things and pull it up to 100 and set it on here and measure it. I've seen people do that. So I'd have to tear that out and then pull up 100 in here. But this is not accurate. I don't know. I tested. And someone did, Elisa or someone else did some tests, and it was specific gravity turned out to be a pretty big deal. And it is with this glaze. Go ahead, question?
Yes, from Lily.
Yep.
I am curious if Jeff has tested each of the floating blue variations.
I have.
From the John Britt book.
I have.
Version.
That is a great question. I have. Let me tear this out again. I tested each one of them. Floating blue one was pretty good, but it's got a ton of Gersley in it. And I didn't really like I like the color response. So, but long story short, I tested them all. Chappelle's is pretty good as well, but I settled with floating blue too because I had the best luck with it. I mean, my goal was not to have a finicky glaze that ran off the shelves. My goal was to have a glaze just like this. Here, can you guys see this? That I could use repeatedly and not ruin my kiln shelves. That was my goal. Okay, here we go. So I teared this out, which means I put it on here, zeroed it out. Now I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm going to measure about 100 grams or milliliters to the top line. Okay. So what's this look like? As I thought, 156. That's too high for this glaze. What am I going to do? Back in here, back in here. Now I know from experience and doing this many, many times that 78% gets me about where I want. I got a little more in here than that water. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to mix this up again. Hey, Risa, could you help me? Sure. Could you rinse that, please? Thank you so much. Don't get that stuff on you. So I've added some more water to this. Adding water will bring the specific gravity down. And does anyone want to know? Maybe I'll just tell you, what is specific gravity? A lot of people go, well, what is it? Well, I look at it like this. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm trying to talk as I do this. Oh my gosh. Almost had a big mess there, guys. So specific gravity. If you take this bowl and you put 1 tablespoon of Gersley borate in it or anything else, and you put a half a cup of water, you still have a half a cup of water and a tablespoon of, say, custard feldspar, right? That's got a certain density of ingredients in there. That custard is 1 tablespoon. It's never going to be more or less. The water is right at a half cup. Now, put another tablespoon of custard in there. You've doubled the density of the material, but when you look at the water level, you didn't put any more water. The water level stays about the same. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but the water's the same, but it's twice as dense. So that's how I look at specific gravity. It's the amount of material that's suspended in the glaze. So when the number is high, there's more material that's going to stick to the pot. When it's low, there's less material. Okay, that's the best way I can do it to explain it. All right, let me go back and finish what we were doing here, which is setting the specific gravity. This glaze, 148, 149, maybe 150, anywhere there will do just fine. Okay. Okay, got 100 in here. There we are, guys. I don't know if you can see it. I'm dead on 148.5. It's exactly where I want to be. Okay. See some thumbs up. All right, I'm done with the scale for now. Now, what are we going to do with this glaze? Let me put it back in here. That back in here.
I do have a question.
Yep.
What clay does yours that fires between cone 5 and 5.5 do you use?
What? Say that again?
What clay do you
What
use?
glaze? Okay, so yeah.
Oh, it says clay. Do you use that fires
So
between cone 5 and 5.5?
it's a cone 6 clay. It's a high water clay that I'm using, or a standard clay. Boy, I've got another mess going here, don't I? I love Rio. So I've tested this probably on, I don't know, 7 or 8 clay bodies. So this is a dark clay body on standard 266. But someone remind me to talk about this. It does well on all the bodies I've used, I'll say that, except for maybe one where it was too tight and it caused some dunting. And I had to add some Gerstley and some clay and some silica to it to loosen it up a little bit. Okay, back to this. But we'll go over that. If you ask me again, just want to get through this. Here's the important part. Okay, now, viscosity. Okay, so a lot of people do this. Go, oh, looks pretty good. Well, you can do that. I suggest you don't do that because it's probably not going to work well with this clay. This is where the Ford cup comes in. Now, do you have to have this? No. If you want to go through experience and just work from experience, you can get this to work without it, probably. But the glaze has to be a certain thickness to work well. So hold on one second. Let me show you. This clay right now is gelled up a bit. If I go in here, this is bisque, and I'm just going to go in here and get it good. Maybe give it several seconds. See how it's wet? Starting to dry, but it's a little wet and runny. It's actually not too bad. This is not too bad. About 5 seconds. It's probably not where I want it to be. Here's one thing. If you follow the original recipe and you put 2 of bentonite in here, then it's definitely going to be thicker and more gelled than this. I'm just going to say that. And it's going to go on, and it's going to go on wet. I'll try and simulate it.
What temperature do you bisque to?
Bisque to 04, which I think is 1945. You see how it's staying wet?
And how many
It's probably what you're going to get.
Sieve your glaze?
I'll sieve my glaze once. And in fact, I should have done that. And I will do that after we get this set.
And how do we know how thick the glaze is supposed to be?
That's just it. So the Ford cup helps with that thickness question. Instead of having to monkey around with it, this is something that, give me one second. This is something that's used in the automotive industry. Okay, let me bring it up. So I want a stopwatch. Here's what I'm going to do. What this thing does is it measures how fast the glaze goes through. And the number that's there right there, 1945, um, is kind of close. We really want it to go through at about 20 seconds, 1945, 19 to 20 seconds. So what I'm doing now is I'm dipping this in here. And the way to use this thing is to dip it all the way in, and then when I pull it up, you'll see what happens. Then I hit start. So what this thing is doing is measuring how long it takes for this amount of liquid, in this case glaze, to come down and pour out. So where do you stop counting? Right there. So that was about 16 seconds. I don't know what happened here. They gave me a different face here. So hold on. Anyway, it was about 16 seconds. I want it to be around 20 seconds. Because 20.
Is that 20 seconds for most glazes?
No, it's just for this glaze.
Okay, and why don't we use a hydrometer?
The hydrometer is for specific gravity. We tested specific gravity. It's at 148. We used the method where you do it by weight. So I put 100 milliliters in here and I weighed it, and it was 148.5 or 1.48. So again, yeah, you could.
Okay.
What I'm trying to understand now is what's the viscosity of this glaze? So how fast does it pour? How fast does it run? Because this determines how much material is going to end up on here. It answers the thickness question. Okay, so you don't have to guess anymore. And you don't have to, let's see, you don't have to scratch off. And you can see this is still not 100% dry up here. So I know that it's actually gelled up a little too bit, and I need to thin it out.
So you've got 8 minutes.
Okay, I got 8 minutes. Okay, so we don't have a time limit. I'm just gonna try and zoom along. I don't know if you guys can see this.
What is the white tool called again?
It's called a Ford, F-O-R-D, Ford cup. And they use it when they paint cars, and they use it in manufacturing as well to see how thick their paint is before they spray it on the car, because it has to be, you know, a certain thickness. Tony Hansen has a write-up on it. Again, I didn't want, you know, I had this problem of glaze hitting the shelves and doing bad stuff. I'm trying to see if I can find something. I can't put my hands on anything right now, but I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to have to fight with this glaze, and I wanted to be able to take this glaze just like this. This is Odyssey White. And you can see it's right down to the edge. I wanted to be able to take this glaze, put it down on the edge, and not have it hit the shelves. So to get it to act like this. So that's why I resorted to this. I put probably 3 months into getting this stuff right, guys, honestly. Okay, so this is a little bit too thick right now, so I need to deflocculate it. So how do I do that? I have Darvan 7 and water in here. Okay, and what does that look like, and how much did I use? It's not rocket science. Here it is. I just poured a little bit in, mixed it with a little water, and that's it. So what is that going to do for me? Well, if you put Epsom salt in something, it'll gel it up. I don't want to do that. I want to thin it out. So Darvan, or Darvan, will actually thin it out. So where's my thing here? All right, sorry. I'm going to do that right now. Phone out of the way. So specific gravity is not going to change, but it's going to thin out a little bit. So I don't know if you can see it. Just add just a little bit. You can see it floating on the top there. Okay, so I think that's enough. You don't need a lot. A little bit goes a long way. And now we're going to do that test again. And I feel like I need to slow down or else I'm going to make a real big mess. Okay, here we go. All right. Bear with me. Need my stopwatch. And of course I got a little battery going here. And here we go. So when this stream breaks, it's done. Now some more might dribble out, but when it starts to break, that's when you go, okay, I'm done. Okay, that is just about where I want it, at about 19 seconds. I was about at 20, and so I thinned it up. So the point is, you thin it up a little bit, and then how do you know if you're at the right point? It's all about how your glaze behaves in here. So I'm going to count about 5 seconds now. Well, that's too long. No, I thinned it out for a reason, because I don't want it to go.
Sorry, didn't catch what you used then to deflect glaze.
Okay, now watch this, guys. See, look, can you guys see this? This is how you know this glaze or any glaze is flocculated correctly. In most cases, not for every glaze, because, you know, it's pottery. There's always an exception. But when it dries within 10 seconds, it's money. This is it. It's not flaky. Right? Now,
Could you use soda ash instead of Darvan to deflect?
soda ash. You know, never used soda ash, but sodium silicate is another thing you can use. I know it's hard to get Darvan, or you can't get it in the UK. So I've never used it, but you could use it. Okay, so let me, so that's it. Again, you want to get to, you'll have to test this. And let me,
How do you determine the time on the Ford cup for the other glazes?
I don't use a Ford cup on other glazes, honestly, because I use the method of does it flocculate correctly or not. Meaning when I put it in here, does it dry within about 8 to 10 seconds to a point where I could go like this? Now I can't push hard, but I can touch it. I call it flash drying. If it doesn't do that, if it sits there and it's wet, it needs to be thinned out. If it dries immediately, it needs to be gelled up.
How much Darvan did you put?
Just a little tiny amount, really. I'll take it out. And I'll do it again. So a lot of people use, here's how much I used. Can you guys see this? Yeah. I just kind of went. Just that.
Is there a Darvan you prefer?
I use Darvan 7, but 811 probably works just as well. All right. Okay. Again, you know, you want to get this glaze where, or any glaze where within, unless it's like a, you know, there are exceptions. If you're running like a crater glaze, you want it to be thick. It's going to take a while to dry, just the way it is. Some glazes have to be really, really thick. People say this glaze has to be thick and super thick, but it doesn't. It needs to be about like this, which is a little bit less than a dime when I'm looking at it. Okay, so now I'm going to break out.
What's the ratio of Darvan to water?
I don't know. Again, it's not an exact science. So look, I'm actually going to do a few things so you can see it. This is a 10,000 gram batch that I whipped up just actually a couple days ago. I need my stirrer. Thought I had it. I have a brush that I use to stir it with. If you guys want to hang in there, I'll show you how I actually do real deal glazing with this glaze.
It's now.
I know, there's no time limit.
Okay.
I know we've been at it for an hour, guys. Sorry, I talk a lot. Okay. Get by the brush I want.
How many seconds are you dipping again?
It depends, probably longer than you think because I thinned it out, so 7 to 8 seconds to get the right amount on. Okay. So here's a 10,000 gram batch that I made up really just 2 or 3 days ago. Last night, I ran it through the sieve again because it was about 3 days old. And I noticed there was some junk in it. And where's my Ford cup? I can look at this glaze now. I know the specific gravity thread. I tested it last night. Anyway, I wouldn't test it again normally unless it was suspect. What does that mean? Well, I've worked with it long enough that I'd have a question about it. So, but I will very quickly just check the viscosity. 1 second, I'm logging into my phone so I can, okay. So I'll take it and I'll hold it up on the side. I really want this to be about 20 seconds. $18, $19, $21. Perfect. Started to break right at 21, 20 to 21. So this glaze is just spot on. Now, before I went to glazed, like something that I've worked forever on, I would definitely grab a piece of bisque, test tile, and I'll stick it in here.
Are there cheaper options than cobalt to get a similar floating wood?
No, sorry. There are not. Okay. Look, you guys see this? This is like perfect. Now, that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you need to make your wear. You'll notice that everything I'm going to show you is going to have this little ridge here. The way I do that is I stick my rib. Let me grab a rib and show you.
What's the cup thing again with the hole called?
Ford, F-O-R-D. They're also called Zahn, Z-A-H-N.
Z-A-H-N.
Z-A-H-N. So look, I'll take this and I'll put this under here and I'll raise this up a little bit and then I'll put my thumb over here and it'll create this. Well, and I do this on everything. So there's that. There's this mug. See how it's indented? There's a little indent here. I do it on everything that I'm going to put this glaze on. And actually, I do it all the time now. Learned this from Matt Kelly, who was a production potter in Seagrove. This technique of, and you know what? Because I used to trim everything. Now I don't trim anything. I don't. So, well, I can't say that. Some items I will trim, a couple of different items, but in general, I don't trim stuff. All right. So, how do I do this? Let me show you guys how I do a mug. Now this mug, by the way, is with the speckled clay. It's standard. I'm sorry. It's a high water speckle. What's important here is to get this mug covered, count, your seconds, and then get it up like this. Oh, you can't see. Let me move this up. You guys can see. Come on. about this? A little bit more, sorry. What's important with mugs, as I was saying, as you get down in here, you count it off, then you get it up and turn it, because you want that glaze to run down. Now, the other way to do it, and you can't do it with mugs, or you could, I guess, is to use your fingers, pour in here first, and then go down, and then come up slowly. So as if you come up slowly, you'll have more glaze here and less here. And then maybe you could take some Timaku or something, go around the edge. You could do that.
Can you show ribbon again lower in the frame? Was that what you just did?
Yeah, yep. So I really just take a rib and slide it underneath. You guys see this? As I'm finishing the bottom, and it'll raise this up, and then I put my finger on it. Maybe I'll do a video. But that gives me this bottom on everything. Okay. So here, I'll do the cup. Let me get my, hang in there, guys, we're almost done. Okay, look, I've got a bucket of water here and I got a sponge right here. You'll want to have this, and I'll show you why. Because it's so much easier to wipe this off as you go. So we give it a stir because it's got parsley in it and prick 3134 at midnight, and it gels up. Here we go. All right, up and out and down. Now I'm giving it a shake. Let the drips off. And then I'm just going to just wipe that off right there. Right there. And it's starting to flash dry now. Actually probably held that a little bit too long. But you guys can see, right? I'm right on the edge here. I don't have to really do anything to this. It's not going to hit my shelves, right? This is taking a long time to dry, though. This probably is a little bit too thick. I'll put it over here and put it down. And in fact, there it is. Or maybe it's the humidity. We had a lot of rain, but that, or maybe it's that. Let me try another one. So I'm just going to do the outside of this, just a little vase. I'm actually going to use my fingers all the way down. And there we go. Yeah, this is starting to dry much better. Maybe it was that clay. Can you guys see that? Okay, any questions? Now's the time to ask the questions.
Well, why you don't wax the bottom?
This one is got shellac on it. So I did.
Do you wax the bottom of your pot?
I don't wax the bottom. I use shellac on the bottom of my pots. Okay, look, this has been out for what? Maybe 20, 30 seconds. I'm drying my hands off because they're a little wet. But I can actually handle this now. That's how I know my glaze is flocculated. This glaze or any glaze is well flocculated. Is I can handle it just not too long afterwards without leaving fingerprints. Okay, so that's that. Now, if I wanted to do the bottom here, I could stick the bottom in. In fact, I'm going to do it for you. Or I could come along this bottom with some Timaku. This Timaku and this glaze go together great. I'll go ahead and dip the bottom real quick. But not for very long. Just 2 or 3 seconds. Because it's going to overlap. And where it overlaps, it will run. All right, so I put shellac on the bottoms of my pots. Why? Because it's easier for me to use than wax. That's why. I'll show you. Hold on.
Do you clean up the area that didn't get glazed from the tons on the mug?
I do. So there's only a little spot from tongs, but before I do that, see this? Use this and shellac, and I mean in 3 seconds or 2 seconds I have this done. I'll take things and I'll put them on a banding wheel, and just in just seconds. So
awesome glazing technique.
So my process, thank you. So my process is to, if I do put a stamp, I don't always, my wife yells at me. I put a stamp, I'll get some black underglaze, put it on there, wipe it off, and then I'll put shellac on it. And literally, trust me, it takes no time at all to do that, much less than waxing. Okay, so we've done a couple pieces. What I think I want to close with talking about the firing schedule and clay bodies, and answer your questions. Any questions? Let me look here.
I got it.
You wax the bottom, do it. Oh, what is shellac? Here, let me show you. This is shellac. You guys see it? It's used in woodworking. So no surprise there. Potter's using something other than for its intended purpose, right? But that's it. Yeah, shellac. Okay. Cones. Firing temperature. So this glaze, like a lot of glazes, if you don't fire it to the right firing schedule, you won't get the results. It just won't happen. So if you fire this glaze to cone 7, it'll be black. You don't put it on thick enough, it'll be green or brown. And if you put it on too thick, it will run all over the place. So give me 1 second. That's why I want you guys to go and make cookies. Now, if you make chocolate chip cookies, you can send them to my house, because I love chocolate chip cookies. But go get some clay, some reclaimed whatever, and make these. It's just clay. Put it in your best fire, and then fire it up to 10, cone 6, whatever. Take your roller and hit it with your kiln wash, and take your pots and put them on there, especially while you're testing. Okay? Because it'll save you a lot of frustration. Here, where can you guys see that? I don't know. I'll change the camera a little bit. Can't quite get it in frame. Going the wrong way. There we go. This will save you a lot of frustration, and it'll help you stay on track. It helped me stay on track because I was damn tired of scraping kiln shelves, I'm telling you. But I love this glaze. I used it in the studio for years, and I wanted to perfect it. Okay, so what can you do with this glaze? Can you guys see this? So how did I do this? Well, this is how I did that. I'm going to show you. I took this gizmo that I made. Pretty simple. I put Timaku gold right here. I'll do it actually. So I keep glazes that I don't use a lot of, not in 5-gallon buckets, but like this. I don't have room for 5-gallon buckets for everything. So I don't have much in here. But in fact, I need to make more. Now, I would actually stir this up if I was going to use it. I'm just demonstrating, really. Okay. I would take this, and this was glazed. Assume this was glazed, and I would literally put it down in here. Because this is here, I can only put it down that far anyway. But that's what I want. I don't really want to put more than this on here, because this is what I get. Okay, everyone with me? Any questions? All right, and where's the white come from, Jeff, is the next question. The white comes from A2V Heath, which is on Glaze as well. So I'll do the Timaku, right? Which you could do on your own, just alone, and it'll look like this. This is just Timaku on its own. You guys see this? Enough light? There we go. Kinda. Sorry. Lighting sucks. Risa, can you turn your phone on? Oh, hold on. I got a flashlight. Does this help? Trying to get better lighting here. Risa, how's it look in your screen?
I think it looks great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's Timaku on its own. It's coming down to the floating blue and hitting it. This is Timaku, little floating blue. This is just Timaku. Point is, Timaku and floating blue on their own look good, or this combo looks great, I think. Here's some other combos. This is spearmint. Okay. What else do I have over here? This is just floating blue on its own, right? Okay. This is floating blue and AB2. And these are just little indentations. It's a peacock type pattern. You guys see that? There we go. There we go. Maybe like that. It's hard to see. All right. Okay. Wow, we went through a lot of stuff in a little bit of time. This glaze is good for other combinations as well. Anyway, any questions? I see 4 new comments. Let me see. What white? The white is AV2 or A2V Heath. It's on Glaze. Walter Ivan, it's one of Walter Ivan Heath's base glazes. It's the ivory version. It's his base plus 8 grams of rutile.
What is AB2?
It's a glaze name. A2V, I think is what it's called, or A2V.
Beer.
V as in Victor.
A2V.
Yeah, A, the number 2, and V as in Victor. Alpha 2,
I got it.
Victor. Yeah. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. It's been, gosh, I'm sorry it took us an hour and 15 minutes plus. But I hope this was helpful for you guys. So make some cookies. Right. Make some glaze. Try and make this glaze. Try and perfect it. Hopefully you can get it so that it doesn't drive you crazy. Because trust me, your friends, family, and customers will love it. Without a doubt, it's a big hit. All right. Any last comments?
What is your firing schedule?
Oh, yeah, the firing schedule. It is on Glaze, but I can more or less tell you from memory. It's 225 degrees to 225 degrees. Right, so 225 ramp to 225 per hour. And then anywhere between 500 and 650 an hour up to 1999. I don't know if you can type that in or not.
I'm trying to start over again.
So, but it's out on Glaze.
Okay.
And then 107 degrees. Why? Because I like 107 instead of 108. Don't ask me why. Orton recommends 108. At 107 degrees up to 2195. And then a 15-minute hold. And it's important that you put a hold on there because you really want that heat work to distribute all around the kiln. Here, let me back up a little bit. So we're done with that. I guess I could do this. So you want the heat work to go all the way around the kiln because what happens is, and don't pack your stuff like this. I mean, you can, or you can pack them recommended 1 inch away. But I give them a little room because, you know, glazes and oxidation need a little room to breathe. So I give them a little bit of room. And so I hold, and you want to hold for at least 10 minutes. I hold for 15 minutes at 2195. And that's going to allow the heat work to go distribute across the kiln and top and bottom. And here's a little secret. I don't fire, every time I fire the kiln with floating glue, I don't have too much other stuff in there. Because why? Because I want the load to go well. And I don't necessarily put stuff on the bottom and the top. Why? Because the kiln's cooler there. I guess you could, but it's up to you. That's just me. What else? So I dropped to 2090 or 2095, 100 degrees, and soak that for 35 to 45 minutes. Why? It gets rid of all the pinholes. Another reason, it gives you a great gloss finish. So the firing schedule and everything, the percentage of water and everything we talked about is in the recipe on glazing. So just go out and find it. It's floating glue and the number 2, and it's published. Okay, last minute questions? Well, listen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank my wife for helping me. Thank you, Risa.
You're welcome.
And I want to leave you guys with one thing to go with the rest of your weekend. It's one of my favorite songs. I hope you can hear it. So, Alexa, play Shining Star in studio.
Here's Shining Star by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
All right, guys. Be a shining star. Have a great day. Thank you. And my wife told me, don't dance. I don't care.